Hey guys, Mustang here bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today we've been taking a look at some of these teams that were in a very good spot in the meta before the worldwide celebration and trying to take them up against the Super Janemba event, which is potentially one of the hardest events on Global at the moment because it is a shift back towards this like older meta where bosses were like incredibly tough on turn one. Kind of like the worldwide celebration from the year before with the Dismal Future Red Zone. Like this guy can hit incredibly hard, and there are only really like, it's one of those few times, like people have complained in the past when Dokkan has events where, you know, you need the newest unit that's just come out in the celebration in order to win. But I mean, this event absolutely destroys even some of the best units in the game, depending on the RNG of the turn, like where he's going to super attack, all that kind of stuff. And one of the big things that plays a huge impact, and I talked about this in one of the previous videos that we did, I think it was either the Boo one or the Goku team one, is that we have a lot of units nowadays, and like the trio are kind of showing here, we have a lot of units now that get a lot of additional attacks, but aren't necessarily doing insane amounts of damage with each attack. And that is, or can be at least, very counterproductive against this Janemba, because every time we hit him, we're upping his attack. So a unit like TEQ Broly, for example, is definitely a little bit better, because whilst he is getting an additional attack here, both of his attacks doing a pretty significant amount of damage. We get the third super as well with the 22 million attack stat. But this Janemba's super attack, obviously he builds up as he gets hit. His super attack hits so incredibly hard. He hasn't super attacked yet, which is a bit scary for Gogeta over here in slot 3. Obviously he does have guard on the first turn here, but Janemba's super attack, like, you know, I've seen, was it Kid Buu in the Buu team run, bearing in mind that he starts off with 20% damage reduction, still took 3 million from a super from this guy. So I thought we'd try it out with the Vegeta Super Saiyans team. This team has been one of my favourite teams in the game for a while. Like, since Saiyan Day, obviously, I thought TEQ Vegeta was very good anyway. But the anniversary brought some really good buffs to his team with some of the Easy A's and, like, Awakenings and new units from the actual anniversary headliners themselves. So this team is really good. The downside is, of course, that Vegeta is a unit that does want to stack. And is not like completely and utterly insane out of the gate. So that is something that we do have to be very much aware of. You know, when we were trying some different teams against the toughest events from the anniversary, the Cell Max, like phase 2, if he was to super attack this Vegeta straight away at the beginning of the turn, because Vegeta, obviously TEQ Vegeta ideally you want as your slot 1 unit, he would take a lot of damage. And of course this is going to be a similar kind of thing where this Janemba does hit super hard. Now obviously once, you know, Vegeta can get some stacks in, which is good. Once he transforms, not only does he hit even harder, but he does have the action break, which is good. This feels like one of those events where action breaks are like super useful, because, you know, you don't never necessarily know where it's going to be if you're not running a unit with a scour ability, obviously, but like any action breaks could potentially be you action breaking away a super attack, which I feel like this fight for some of the teams in the game, a lot of the teams in the game, to be fair, there's a lot of teams in the game that just won't be able to beat this fight, right? But there are a lot of teams that will be able to beat this fight if you get good RNG. Now remember, Vegeta has guard on the first turn here. 257k, okay, that's not too bad. Yeah, in the worst case scenario, when this guy's fully built up, you also don't want to bring STR units, right? Because as soon as Janemba gets hit by an STR unit, he gets a buff. And then, yeah, he just does so much more damage. So Vegeta able to tank it on this turn at least, which is what we like to see. 100k. Oof. Well, let's see, what have we got going on here? We can use the standby. Although there's going to be no orbs. Oh, actually, this is a terrible orb field as well. There's barely any key for them, which means they're probably going to get slapped up a little bit here in slot 1. Right, we'll do this and we'll see what happens. But yeah, just like with the other teams, we'll have a couple of attempts. 288k. Well, Now we pretty much only survive this turn if he doesn't super at all, because no one else on this rotation is going to tank his super well enough that we would live that. Yeah, 376k. It's crazy because the Super Saiyan trio, obviously being, you know, one of the best units in the game, they do rely on having that key. If their key is below a certain amount, as you can see there, like their defense is definitely nowhere near what we would hope it would be. Okay, we got one of the... Great, no Vegetas on turn 1 again. In fact, we don't really have a slot 1 unit on the first turn. It's so funny, like, this event... Okay, we did get lucky with the setup there. I guess we'll do this. Yeah, it's funny, it goes to show, like, with events this hard, and the Dismal Future Red Zone was the same, the good thing is that this one doesn't have attempt limits, because, yeah, like, you can just load into the stage and see the starting rotation like that, and it's like, oh, well, this is not going to go well, is it? But King Vegeta, very good tanking after supering, as long as he didn't get hit by a super here from Janemba. I had a feeling that he would do okay. Gogeta, of course, has guard for this turn as well. So, I mean, he might survive a super attack. Obviously, both him and Broly are going to attack a whole bunch of times. So, of course, that's giving Janemba even more of a buff. But we'll see how he gets on here. We managed to get quite close with the Buu team and the Goku team. If we could get close or even actually get the W with this team, that would be great. But it really does feel like one of those events where there's a lot of RNG involved. And if you get certain things go your way, then, you know, even with some teams, you could probably have a run that feels quite easy. But if that RNG doesn't go your way, yeah, 187k from a normal. Well, okay, he's dead. Damn. 1.47 million. Jeez. I mean, Gogeta does only get the 170 lead from the Super Saiyan Vegeta team, so that is understandable. But yeah, this event is actually crazy. Like, we did it with, I think I did it with the Broly team, right? Because I feel like the Broly team is basically one of the best teams in the game at the moment. And it's kind of like, I mean, it's the team from the worldwide, so that makes sense. But it feels like it's tailor-made for this stage just because of how ridiculously good defensively, like, the Brolys are, right? At least we have a Vegeta on both the first turns this time. And we have Blue Evolution Vegeta here as well. We have the King Vegeta for the support. So yeah, this should be a decent rotation. Although, no AGL orbs for King Vegeta. Which could be instant death unless we get some spawning. Okay, there we go. They actually fell just right, even if that other one at the top left hadn't appeared. We did have 3 that we could pick up there together. But yeah, TEQ Vegeta turn 1, considering he's getting the support from King Vegeta, still taking 10k from a normal attack in slot 1. Obviously pre any stacks or anything, but even so, like, on his team, he is sort of like the go-to slot 1 unit. So definitely a bit more damage than we maybe would like, but not too much at least. And then post super, obviously, he's going to be okay. Blue Evolution Vegeta gets can get some crits here. Additional supers, of course, are guaranteed crits. Do some decent damage. Okay, good. And then, yeah, he builds up his damage reduction within the turn. So I was going to say, if he gets super, does that third attack, obviously that will do less damage. So it's not necessarily going to be as bad, but... Okay, nice. King Vegeta still taking double-digit damage despite the build-up that Janemba had gotten thus far. That's pretty good. So let's do this. We're still waiting on that super, though, unfortunately. Let's do that. Okay, so I mean, it's a good rotation, in theory, but 7.1 for the friend Vegeta starting out here, pretty decent. Gets a crit as well, nice. We've got a Goku on the rotation, technically, because we have the Super Saiyan trio. They slot in nicely on this team, although, of course, they do only get the 170 lead as well, but all that defensive support that they can provide, I think, definitely makes up for it. Yeah, post-super they'll be strong enough defensively. Well, I say strong enough defensively. This is the craziest thing, is like these guys have been super strong since release for the like current meta, but this fight is just insane, right? Like it is an anomaly compared to the other fights. Just the sheer amount of damage that he does, especially because every time you're hitting him you're building him up, so like the later in the turn he supers, the worse it is for you. And outside of having a team of units that are all very strong tanks, because yeah, how much are they going to take from this? They got a bunch of supers off, 1.7 mil, so like you don't survive that. Like there's no, I mean, teams, you can get up to what, like 800, close to 900k HP on some of these teams now, but like, yeah, what are we supposed to do against a boss that supers that hard? Like these guys, we couldn't have played that turn any better in terms of like what we did with the Super Saiyan trio, right? They were in the middle slot, they had a bunch of links active, they got to attack first, they had full key, so they had their full like defensive like setup, and yet we take the kind of damage that you literally cannot survive. So this event is just insane. I can imagine that there are a fair few people out there that haven't actually beaten it at all. I mean, the Gogeta one is similar, and like there's no particular reason I guess I picked the Janemba one over the Gogeta one, although I think the Janemba one, I did the Gogeta one I think first try, and then the Janemba one I wanted to use a super class team because I wanted to use like Janemba against Gogeta and then Gogeta against Janemba, and then after like a couple of attempts I had to switch to the Broly team in order to beat Janemba the first time. So yeah, I don't know whether Gogeta, I don't know what they're, in terms of their stats or anything, if Janemba or Gogeta, which one is technically more difficult, but yeah, it's certainly feels like Janemba is a insane event at the peak, especially for global. Remember, we don't have the Bulma or the Goku and Frieza events yet, so this event is just insane for the current setup we have on global. Because I mean, the Super Saiyan trio, after supering, up until this Janemba event, like after supering, they are tanking almost anything in the game, right? Now, of course, mine are only 55%, which does play a small role, but really when it comes to the dupes, it's the things like whilst you are getting extra stats to a certain extent, like you get a little bit, the benefit is, of course, the abilities and having the gold skill orb and all that kind of stuff. But like a rainbow, in that like clip on the previous one where we died, right, the 1.7 million damage, a rainbow version of the physical trio isn't tanking that for survivable damage. If it's doing 1.7 to the physical, to the 55% one, it's not going to do like 500k to the rainbow one. 1.24. Yeah, it's just like there are so few units in the game that can just eat this. You need to have units that have loads of damage reduction, guard, or like high dodge. Trying out the TEQ UI Goku Reps of Universe 17 would be interesting. I feel like that is a team that could potentially have a good run in this event, but let's do one more attempt here and see how close we can get. But it's just interesting. Oh, double Vegeta turn one, that's not great. Although we have Int Vegeta on the second turn. It's interesting to see like these teams that were dominating the meta before the worldwide celebration, and now this Janemba event is just absolutely crushing some of these teams. I mean, it's like anything where certain teams are better for certain events. It's like the Boo team, right? The Boo team is slow, takes a while to build up. Like especially Int Boo does a lot of attacks that don't necessarily do a lot of damage with each one. So of course against Janemba, an enemy that builds up every time he gets hit, that's not really an ideal like setup. So certain teams aren't going to be good in certain events. That's not necessarily like the end of the world. It doesn't necessarily make those teams bad all of a sudden, but obviously it is interesting to see the change in 961. Damn, with the guard as well. Like, you see what I mean? Like, that is just crazy. And I mean, TEQ Vegeta is another unit like Int Boo that needs that time to build up. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. How would you build the Vegeta team to try and do the Janemba stage? If you have done it with the Vegeta team, obviously let me know your build down below in the comment section. But yeah, absolutely crazy. And it's funny that like there's nothing to do in the game at the moment, so we're just like amusing ourselves with seeing how much Janemba destroys all of these teams. But yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts down below, and if there's another team you want to see against Janemba, let me know in the comments as well. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.